I stood in the corner of the expansive ballroom, clutching my champagne glass as my husband James took center stage at his company's annual gala. After 15 years of marriage, I should have been used to these corporate events, but tonight felt different. And of course, James continued, his voice carrying that condescending tone I'd grown to hate, I have to thank my lovely wife Emily for her understanding. While I've been building Morgan & Pierce into the powerhouse it is today, she's been keeping herself busy with her little online boutique. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I maintained my practiced smile, but my hand tightened around the crystal stem. My little online boutique had just secured its fifth round of venture capital funding, valuing it at $2.8 billion. It's cute, really, James went on, clearly enjoying his moment. She sells handmade jewelry or something. Perfect hobby for a corporate wife. Diana, my best friend and secret business partner, appeared at my elbow. Should we tell him now? She whispered. I shook my head slightly. The paperwork had been finalized that morning. Our private equity firm now owned controlling interest in Morgan & Pierce. James was so focused on mocking my business that he hadn't noticed the company's shares being quietly acquired through various shell corporations. Let him have his moment, I murmured. The board meeting is tomorrow morning. James continued his speech, dropping casual hints about his upcoming promotion to CEO. He'd been bragging about it for weeks, certain the board would choose him to replace the retiring Michael Pierce. Speaking of the board, Diana said softly, everything's ready. Pierce signed the final documents an hour ago. Perfect. Michael Pierce had been surprisingly eager to sell once he saw our modernization plans. Apparently, he'd grown tired of James's old-school approach to investment banking. The evening continued in a blur of fake smiles and patronizing comments. Every executive's wife wanted to hear about my cute little hobby. I answered their questions, patiently, never mentioning that my company's market value exceeded their husband's annual bonuses. Your new collection must be doing well, one woman said, eyeing my Cartier watch. James's credit card getting a workout? Actually, I smiled. I bought it myself. The boutique had a good quarter. She laughed as if I'd told a clever joke. These women couldn't imagine that a corporate wife might build something substantial. As the party wound down, James joined me, slightly drunk and even more condescending than usual. Ready to go home, honey? I need to rest up for tomorrow's board meeting. Big day. Of course, I replied. I have an early meeting myself. He laughed, wrapping an arm around my waist. More jewelry designs? Or is it handbags now? I can never keep track. I let him lead me to our waiting car, thinking about the documents in my home office. Acquisition papers, board restructuring plans, and a press release announcing Morgan & Pierce's new CEO. You seem quiet, James observed as we drove home. Not upset about my little joke, are you? Everyone knows corporate wives need their hobbies. Not upset at all, I assured him. Just thinking about tomorrow. It's going to be quite a day. Diana texted as we pulled into our driveway. Press release scheduled for 9 a.m. Board meeting at 10. Everything in place. I smiled, remembering all the times James had patted my head and called my business cute. Tomorrow, he would learn that. Sometimes the smallest-looking businesses had the sharpest teeth. Coming to bed? James called from upstairs. In a minute, I replied, heading to my office. Just need to check on a few orders. He wouldn't understand that I was actually reviewing Morgan & Pierce's restructuring plan one final time. The changes would be extensive, modernizing their outdated systems, replacing key executives, implementing digital transformation across all divisions. Tomorrow, James would discover that his wife's cute little hobby had grown into something powerful enough to swallow his company whole. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, it's succeeding so spectacularly that they never see it coming. Morning arrived with perfect timing. James left early for what he thought would be his triumphant board meeting, not even noticing when I slipped out right after him. Everything's ready, Diana reported as I entered Morgan and Pierce's headquarters, through the private executive entrance. The board members are already gathering. James is in his office practicing his acceptance speech. I smiled, thinking of all the times I'd listened to him rehearse his vision for the company while dismissing my own business insights. The press release goes live in 10 minutes, Diana continued, handing me a tablet displaying the final version. Morgan and Pierce announces new leadership. Emily Chen takes helm as CEO. We waited in the conference room adjacent to the boardroom, listening as the members assembled. Through the door, I could hear James's confident voice greeting everyone. "Your husband seems cheerful," Michael Pierce observed, joining us. The retiring CEO had been surprisingly supportive of our takeover, tired of James's resistance to modernization. At exactly 9 a.m., phones began buzzing throughout both rooms. The press release had dropped. "What the hell?" James's voice carried, clearly. There must be some mistake. I checked my appearance one final time. Armani suit, Louboutin heels bought with profits from my little boutique, and the quiet confidence of someone who'd been underestimated for the last time. "Shall we?" Diana gestured to the boardroom door. The scene inside was exactly as I'd imagined. James stood frozen, staring at his phone while other board members whispered among themselves. His face reddened as I walked in. "Good morning," I said calmly, taking my place at the head of the table. "I believe we have some business to discuss." "Emily?" James's voice cracked. "What are you doing here? What is this nonsense about you being CEO?" I opened my portfolio, removing the acquisition documents. "Not just CEO, James. Majority shareholder. My investment firm now owns controlling interest in Morgan and Pierce." "Investment firm?" He laughed nervously. "You sell jewelry online." "That's one of my companies," I corrected, along with a tech startup, 2 retail chains, and a private equity firm that's been quietly acquiring your company's shares for the past year. The board members watched with fascination as I distributed copies of our modernization plan. James remained standing, his prepared acceptance speech forgotten. "This isn't possible," he protested. "You don't know anything about running an investment bank." "Actually," Michael Pierce interjected, "Emily's digital transformation strategy is exactly what Morgan and Pierce needs. Her companies have consistently outperformed traditional firms." James collapsed into his chair as reality set in. "Last night, at the party, when you were mocking my cute little hobby?" I smiled. "Yes, I'd already signed the final acquisition papers. Congratulations on the promotion, by the way. You're now Senior Vice President of Digital Integration." "I'm what?" "Your new position." I explained. "You'll be helping implement our modernization plan. Diana will supervise your progress." Diana smiled sweetly from her seat. James had never bothered to learn that she was my CFO, not just another corporate wife. The meeting proceeded efficiently. Our plans were approved, new executives confirmed, and the digital transformation timeline established. "One more thing," I announced as the meeting concluded. "The company will be rebranded as Chen Global Investments. The Morgan and Pierce era is officially over." James remained motionless as others filed out, still struggling to process how his trophy wife had become his boss. "Emily," he tried finally. "We should talk about this at home." "Schedule a meeting with my assistant," I replied, gathering my materials. "And James? Those reports on the Thompson account need to be redone. Your numbers are outdated." Diana joined me as we left the boardroom. "You know what's perfect?" she asked. "He's been so busy mocking your business that he never even looked up its value." I smiled, remembering all the patronizing comments about my hobby at corporate events. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success," I replied. "It's succeeding so quietly that they never see you coming until it's too late." My phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from other board members. The business world was already buzzing about the corporate wife who'd outmaneuvered her condescending husband. "The Thompson reports are on your desk," Diana reported. I made James redo them twice already. Perfect. He was learning that my standards were higher than his old methods could meet. As I settled into the CEO's office, my office now, I could see James through the glass walls, sitting shell-shocked at his much smaller desk. His little hobby wife had just become his boss, and his mansplaining days were officially over. 1 month into my leadership of Chen Global Investments, I sat reviewing James's latest performance reports. My husband was struggling to adapt to both his new position and the reality of working under his wife's authority. He's requested another extension on the digital integration timeline, Diana reported, setting down a stack of documents. Says the new systems are unnecessarily complex. No extensions, I replied, remembering how he'd once called my tech platform cute. If he can't meet the deadlines, we'll find someone who can. The morning brought a parade of meetings. Our digital transformation was proceeding rapidly, though some of James's old allies were resisting change. The Thompson account is moving to our new platform, Diana announced. Apparently, they prefer our modern methods to James's traditional approach. Perfect. James's biggest client had chosen innovation over golf course relationships. Speaking of James, Diana continued, he tried to schedule a private dinner with the Thompsons. I reminded him all client meetings must be documented through proper channels. I smiled, remembering all the deals he'd made over expensive dinners while dismissing my business strategies as amateur. The Wall Street Journal wants an interview, Diana added. They're calling it The Corporate Wife's Revenge. How a hobby business swallowed a banking giant. The publicity had been intense. Every business publication wanted to know how a supposedly simple online retailer had engineered a takeover of a major investment bank. James appeared in my office doorway, looking uncomfortable in the business casual attire now required for all employees. Emily, he started, then corrected himself. Ms. Chen, about the Thompson account. Your reports show significant delays in their digital transition, I interrupted. Unacceptable. The client expects full integration by month's end. These new systems, he protested. They're unnecessarily complicated. My old methods worked fine. Your old methods lost us 3 major accounts last quarter. I pulled up the performance metrics. The market has evolved, James. Either evolve with it or find another position. He flinched at the threat. We both knew his outdated skills wouldn't attract many offers in today's digital-first environment. Later that day, Diana brought more updates. Our stock had risen 30% since the takeover announcement. Even James's strongest supporters couldn't argue with those numbers. The Harvard Business Review called, she reported. They want to do a case study on our transformation. From hobby to hostile takeover, the future of digital banking. I reviewed the latest department reports while Diana scheduled the interview. Every division was exceeding projections under our new leadership, except James's team. He's having lunch with Michael Pierce, Diana mentioned, probably hoping the old CEO will help him regain some influence. Michael's the one who approved our takeover, I reminded her. He knew James's methods were becoming obsolete. The afternoon brought a surprise visit from Sarah Thompson, our biggest client's CEO. Your husband tried to convince me to maintain traditional trading methods, she said, settling into a visitor's chair. I reminded him I prefer working with the actual decision-maker. Perfect. James's old boys network was crumbling as clients embraced our digital innovations. The modernization plan is impressive, Sarah continued. We're considering moving all our accounts to your new platform. By evening, James had made 3 more attempts to bypass the new systems. Each time, Diana's team caught and corrected his unauthorized methods. He still doesn't understand, Diana observed as we reviewed the day's reports. This isn't about humiliating him. It's about dragging banking into the modern age. I watched through my office windows as James struggled with the digital trading platform. His former assistant had mastered it in 2 days. You know what's ironic? I asked Diana. If he'd ever bothered to understand my business, he might have been prepared for this transformation. My phone buzzed with news that made everything perfect. Another major client had moved their entire portfolio to our digital platform, citing James's resistance to modern methods as their reason for the switch. Sometimes, I told Diana as we prepared to leave, the best revenge isn't just success. It's succeeding so completely that they have to either adapt or become irrelevant. The city lights twinkled as we left the office. Through the glass walls, I could see James still at his desk, trying to understand the systems that his hobby wife had created. Sometimes karma doesn't just come around, it comes around with compound interest. 3 months into my leadership of Chen Global Investments, I sat in our newly renovated boardroom preparing for the quarterly shareholders meeting. The digital displays behind me showed our remarkable growth since the takeover. James requested to present his department's numbers himself, Diana reported, organizing the morning's materials. I reminded him that all reports go through proper channels now. How did he take that? I asked, though I already knew the answer. About as well as he's taking everything else. He's still struggling with the new reporting software. The transformation of Morgan & Pierce into Chen Global had been more successful than even we'd anticipated. Our stock value had doubled, with traditional clients eagerly embracing our digital platforms. The Financial Times piece is out, Diana mentioned, sliding her tablet across the table. They're calling it Banking's Digital Revolution: How a Tech Entrepreneur Transformed an Industry Dinosaur. James appeared in the doorway, clutching outdated paper reports. Emily, Ms. Chen, about my presentation. Your numbers weren't properly integrated into the digital system. I cut him off. Sarah will present the consolidated data. Sarah, his former golf buddy's daughter, had quickly risen to head of digital operations. She understood modern banking in ways James couldn't grasp. But I've always presented at shareholder meetings, he protested weakly. That was before our systems showed your department's 40% underperformance. I pulled up the metrics on my screen. The shareholders expect actual results now, not just golf course relationships. The meeting itself was a triumph. Every division showed remarkable growth under our new digital framework, except James's traditional trading desk. The transition has exceeded all projections, I told the shareholders. Our digital platforms have attracted clients who previously considered us too old-fashioned for modern finance. From his seat in the middle rows, James watched his old clients praise our new methods. The Thompson account, once his pride, had tripled under Sarah's digital management. Your husband seems uncomfortable, one board member observed during a break. Still having trouble adapting? Change is difficult for those who resist it, I replied, remembering all the times James had dismissed digital trading as a passing fad. Diana brought afternoon updates that made everything sweeter. 3 more major firms had moved their portfolios to our platform, citing our innovative approach. The Harvard Business Review wants to interview you, she reported. They're featuring us in their Digital Transformation series. Perfect. The same publication James had once quoted while mocking my amateur business methods. Speaking of James, Diana added, he tried to expense another client dinner. I reminded him all meetings must be conducted through official channels. I watched through my office windows as he struggled with the digital expense system. His assistant had mastered it on her first day. You know what's ironic? Diana mused. He spent years treating your tech company like a cute hobby. Now he can't even file reports without its software. The day ended with news that felt like perfect karma. The city's most exclusive golf club was being sold to make way for a tech startup campus. Times change, I told James when he complained about losing his favorite networking venue. Successful people adapt. That evening, as I prepared to leave, I found him still at his desk, surrounded by rejected reports. The digital systems, he started, his frustration evident. They're unnecessarily complex. No, James, they're necessarily complex. Modern finance requires more than handshakes and dinner meetings. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. The Thompson account had just doubled their investment, praising our digital innovation. Remember when you called my business cute? I asked him. When you told everyone at parties that I sold jewelry or something? He flushed, remembering his mockery at the company gala. That cute technology is now the backbone of global finance, I continued. The only question is whether you'll finally learn to use it or become as obsolete as your old methods. Diana waited by my car. You know what's perfect? She asked. He still doesn't understand that this isn't about revenge. It's about evolution. I smiled, thinking of all the corporate events where I'd sat quietly while James explained banking to me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, I replied. It's creating something so revolutionary that your critics become irrelevant. The city lights sparkled as we drove home. Through my rearview mirror, I could see James's office, lights still on as he struggled to join the future his hobby wife had created. 6 months after taking control, I stood at the podium during our semi-annual company gala, the same event where James had once mocked my little hobby. The ballroom looked different now, sleek digital displays replacing the old banking memorabilia that see, transformation statistics are ready, Diana whispered, passing me the final presentation. Every department has exceeded targets except James's traditional trading desk, I finished. I know. The room was packed with employees and clients, all eager to celebrate our company's revolutionary success. James sat at a middle table, looking uncomfortable in the modern setting. Quite a different party from last time, Michael Pierce observed, joining me at the podium. The former CEO had become one of our strongest advocates. Remember when James used to run these events? When he spent more time mocking my business than understanding it? I smiled. Times change. I took the stage as the room fell silent. Behind me, screens displayed our company's meteoric rise since the takeover. Our value had tripled, with traditional clients flocking to our digital platforms. 6 months ago, I began. Many doubted that a tech entrepreneur could revolutionize traditional banking. Some called our methods unnecessarily complex, too modern, too different. From his seat, James shifted uncomfortably. He'd used those exact words to dismiss my ideas for years. Today, Chen Global leads the industry in digital innovation. Our platforms process more transactions in an hour than the old systems handled in a month. Diana brought breaking news during my speech. The Thompson Group, once James's proudest client relationship, had just moved their entire portfolio to our digital platform. Change isn't easy, I continued, watching James's reaction. Those who resist evolution risk becoming extinct. But those who adapt, they help shape the future. The announcement portion began. Sarah, James's former golf partner's daughter, was promoted to Chief of Digital Operations. 3 more traditional trading desks would be converted to digital platforms. And finally, I concluded, we're launching the Chen Innovation Fund, supporting other overlooked entrepreneurs with revolutionary ideas. The applause was thunderous. Even James's old allies had to acknowledge our success. Modern finance had no room for golf course deals and dinner meeting handshakes. During the reception, James approached my table. Emily, Ms. Chen, about my department's numbers. They're unsustainable, I cut in. Your team has 1 month to complete digital integration or we'll restructure the division entirely. These new systems, he started, have generated record profits, I finished. The market has evolved, James. Either evolve with it or step aside for someone who will. Diana brought evening updates that made everything perfect. 5 more major firms had adopted our platform, citing our innovative approach as the deciding factor. The Wall Street Journal profile is ready, she reported. From mocked to mogul, how a hobby business revolutionized banking. I watched James at his table, alone with his outdated reports while younger executives demonstrated our latest digital tools to excited clients. Remember when he used to hold court at these events? Diana mused. Now he can barely understand the conversation. The night ended with news that felt like karma's finishing touch. The country club where James had made his biggest deals was being converted into a tech startup incubator. Times change, I told him when he mentioned it. Smart people change with them. Later, as the party wound down, I found him staring at a digital display of real-time global transactions. "Your little jewelry business," he said quietly. It was never really about jewelry, was it? No, James. It was about seeing the future while men like you clung to the past. The only question was, who would adapt first? My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Our newest digital platform had just set another industry record. "You know what's ironic?" I asked him. "If you'd spent less time mocking my business and more time understanding it, you might have been leading this revolution instead of struggling to follow it." Diana waited by my car. "Perfect timing on the Innovation Fund announcement," she said. "Now other underestimated entrepreneurs can follow your path." I smiled, thinking of all the corporate events where I'd sat quietly while James explained banking to me. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success," I replied. "It's succeeding so completely that you change the very industry that once dismissed you." The city lights sparkled as we drove home. Tomorrow, another group of traditional bankers would discover that the future had arrived, designed by the woman they'd all dismissed as just a corporate wife with a cute hobby. 9 months into my leadership, I sat for an interview with Forbes magazine. Chen Global had become the model for modern banking, and the industry wanted to understand how a hobby business had triggered such a revolution. The transformation. "Numbers are astounding," the reporter began, reviewing our latest data. "Traditional banks across the country are scrambling to adopt your digital model." Diana brought real-time updates during the interview. 3 more major institutions had just licensed our platform, abandoning their old-school methods. "Your husband," the reporter ventured carefully. "How is he adapting to the new systems?" I glanced through my office windows where James sat at his modest desk, still struggling with basic digital protocols. "Change affects everyone differently," I replied diplomatically. "Some adapt, others remain attached to outdated methods." The morning's meetings brought more evidence of our impact. The country's top investment firms were desperately trying to modernize, realizing that handshake deals and golf course networks couldn't compete with digital efficiency. "The Thompson Group called," Diana reported. "They want to feature us in their annual finance summit. From traditional to digital, the future of banking." Perfect irony. James's former client now wanted me to explain how technology had made his methods obsolete. "Speaking of James," Diana continued, "he tried to schedule another traditional client dinner. I reminded him all meetings must be conducted through our digital channels." I watched him through the glass walls, surrounded by rejected reports and struggling with our basic trading software. "Remember when he told everyone I sold jewelry or something?" I asked Diana. "Now he can't even complete a transaction without my technology." The afternoon brought more validation. The Harvard Business School had made our transformation a required case study. The Digital Revolution: How Innovation Outpaced Tradition. "Your latest platform update is ready," Sarah reported, bringing impressive test results. She'd risen quickly from junior analyst to head of digital operations, understanding modern finance in ways James never could. "Roll it out next week," I instructed, "and make sure everyone completes the training, especially the traditional trading desk." James appeared in my doorway, looking frustrated. "About the training requirements, they're mandatory," I cut in. "Even for former executives who think they know banking. But my clients prefer personal relationships." "Your former clients," I corrected, "are now our digital clients. The Thompson Group's returns have quadrupled since switching to our platform." He flinched at the mention of his once prized account. The prestigious firm now dealt exclusively through our automated systems. Diana brought afternoon news that felt like perfect karma. The last remaining traditional investment club in the city was closing, replaced by a coding academy. Times really have changed, she observed, watching James struggle with his quarterly reports. Remember when he used to lecture you about real banking? The day ended with a final piece of symbolism. Our digital trading volume for 1 hour exceeded what Morgan & Pierce had handled in its best year under James's leadership. The Financial Times wants an update, Diana reported. They're calling it The Death of Traditional Banking: How a Tech Entrepreneur Changed Finance Forever. I found James still at his desk that evening, staring at error messages on his screen. Having trouble? I asked, pausing at his cubicle. These systems, he started, then stopped. We both knew his complaints about complexity were really admissions of obsolescence. You know what's ironic, James? All those years you spent mocking my cute little hobby, you could have been learning about the future of finance. My phone buzzed with news that our stock had hit another record high. The market had spoken. Innovation had officially defeated tradition. Sometimes, I told Diana as we left for the day, success isn't about proving critics wrong. It's about making their entire way of doing business extinct. The city lights twinkled through my office windows. Somewhere out there, other underestimated entrepreneurs were quietly building the next revolution, while men like James clung to their fading traditions. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just changing who's in charge, it's changing how the entire game is played. 1 year after taking control, I stood at the podium of the Global Financial Summit, preparing to deliver the keynote address. Chen Global had become the standard bearer for modern banking, our digital revolution reshaping the entire industry. Final numbers are in, Diana whispered, handing me the latest report. Traditional banking methods now account for less than 5% of global transactions. Most of that is from James's remaining clients. In the audience, James sat stiffly in his department head seat, though his role had become largely ceremonial. His once mighty traditional trading desk had shrunk to handling a handful of elderly clients who still resisted digital platforms. The Wall Street Journal profile is ready, Diana added. They're calling it The Complete Revolution: How a Mocked Entrepreneur Obsoleted Traditional Banking. My presentation began with a comparison. Our digital platform's daily trading volume versus Morgan & Pierce's entire historical record. The difference was staggering. 1 year ago, I addressed the crowd. Many claimed that personal relationships were the heart of banking, that digital platforms could never replace handshake, deals, and golf course networks. From his seat, James shifted uncomfortably. He'd used those exact arguments to mock my business model countless times. Today, Chen Global processes more transactions in an hour than traditional banks handle in a month. Our automated systems have made old-school banking as obsolete as paper ledgers. Sarah, now our Chief Innovation Officer, presented the next segment. The young woman James had once dismissed as too inexperienced now led the most successful division in modern banking. The Thomson Group's results are remarkable, she reported, displaying their growth charts. Their returns have increased 600% since fully adopting our digital platform. I watched James wince at the mention of his former premier client. The prestigious firm now conducted all business through automated channels, their young CEO publicly praising our innovation. The Harvard Business Review called, Diana reported during a break. They want to update their case study. Apparently, students can't even comprehend how traditional banking worked. Perfect. The methods James had once lectured me about were now being taught as historical curiosities. The afternoon sessions showcased our newest innovations. Each presentation further highlighted how completely we'd transformed the industry. Your husband seems uncomfortable, Michael Pierce observed, watching James struggle to follow the technical discussions. Still hasn't adapted? Some people, I replied. would rather become obsolete than admit they were wrong. Diana brought updates that made everything perfect. 3 more countries had adopted our platform as their standard for financial transactions. Traditional banking was dying globally. The Financial Times wants to interview you both, she mentioned. They're doing a piece on the death of old-school banking, sort of a before and after perspective. James approached during the evening reception, looking lost among the digital displays and tech discussions. Emily, Ms. Chen, he started, about my department's remaining clients. They'll be transitioned to the digital platform by quarter's end, I informed him. The board voted this morning. Traditional trading services are being discontinued, but my relationships, my experience, are as outdated as paper stock certificates, I finished. The future arrived, James. You just refused to see it. Later, reviewing the day's success, Diana shared an observation. You know what's truly ironic? He spent so much time mocking your little hobby that he missed watching it devour his entire world. I smiled, remembering all the condescending comments at corporate parties. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving critics wrong, I replied. It's making their expertise irrelevant. The summit ended with news that felt like destiny. The last major traditional bank in the country had announced its digital conversion, using our platform, of course. The complete transformation is official, Diana reported. Traditional banking is now officially classified as historical methodology in financial textbooks. Through my office windows, I could see James still at his desk, staring at systems. He'd never bothered to understand while they were just his wife's cute hobby. The city lights sparkled below, each one representing another digital transaction in the new financial world we'd created. Sometimes karma doesn't just come around. It evolves into something the old guard can't even comprehend. 18 months after taking control, I sat in the newly established Museum of Financial Innovation, watching as visitors explored the Evolution of Banking exhibit. The contrast was striking. Traditional banking methods displayed as historical artifacts alongside our modern digital systems. The educational tours are fully booked for the next year, Diana reported, checking her tablet. Business schools worldwide want their students to understand how digital finance replaced traditional methods. In a dimly lit corner, James's old mahogany desk sat like a relic, complete with his leather-bound ledgers and gold pen set. The placard read, Traditional Banking, 1980-2024. Your husband stopped by earlier, Diana mentioned. Spent an hour staring at his old office furniture. Said something about real banking. The morning brought a stream of journalists previewing the exhibit. Each wanted to understand how a hobby business had transformed global finance. The Thomson Group's CEO is here, Diana announced. She's doing a presentation on their transition from traditional to digital banking. I watched from the back as Sarah Thompson, now a prominent figure in modern finance, explained how our platform had revolutionized her family's century-old firm. My father used to close deals over golf, she told the audience. Now we process more transactions in 1 minute than he handled in his entire career. The afternoon sessions showcased our latest innovations. Each presentation further highlighted how completely we'd transformed the industry. The Harvard Digital Finance Center. Called, Diana reported. They want to name their main hall after you, the Emily Chen Innovation Hub. Perfect irony. The same institution where James had once lectured about traditional banking would now bear my name. Speaking of James, Diana continued, his last remaining client finally switched to our digital platform. His department is officially obsolete. I found him later, standing before a display about Morgan & Pierce's final days. The photos showed him at his last company gala, mockingly describing my cute little hobby. Quite a change, I observed, joining him. From mocking digital finance to watching it replace everything you knew. These modern methods, he started, then stopped. We both knew his complaints about complexity were really mourning for his lost relevance. You know what's ironic, James? While you were making jokes about my business, you could have been learning about the future of finance. The day brought more validation. The Global Banking Association had officially reclassified traditional banking methods as historical practices. The Wall Street Journal retrospective is ready, Diana reported. The Death of Traditional Banking: How Innovation Trumped Tradition. During the evening reception, I overheard younger executives puzzling over the old artifacts. They really made deals on golf courses? One asked, examining a vintage club. Membership card. How did they track transactions? The future is here, I told James as he lingered by his old desk. The only question is whether you'll finally adapt or remain a historical curiosity yourself. Diana brought final numbers that made everything perfect. Our digital platform now processed more transactions in 1 second than Morgan & Pierce had, handled in its entire history. The Financial Times wants an update, she said. They're calling it the Complete Revolution: How a Hobby Business Rendered Traditional Banking Extinct. As night fell, I found James still in the museum, staring at photos from his glory days. Remember when you told everyone I sold jewelry? Or something? I asked. When you explained banking to me at every company party? He nodded silently. His expertise now as outdated as the artifacts surrounding us. Sometimes, I told Diana as we left, success isn't about proving critics wrong. It's about building something so revolutionary that their mockery becomes a historical exhibit. The city lights sparkled through the museum's windows, each one representing countless digital transactions in the new financial world. Somewhere, out there, other underestimated entrepreneurs were quietly building the next revolution. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just succeeding, it's succeeding so completely that your critics become museum pieces. 2 years after taking control, I stood at the podium during the World Economic Forum's annual meeting. Chen Global had been chosen to present the future of digital finance, our revolution now complete. The transformation statistics are remarkable, Diana whispered, handing me the final report. Traditional banking methods now account for less than 1% of global transactions. In the audience, James sat among retired executives, his role now purely ceremonial. His traditional trading desk had been fully automated last month, its few remaining clients finally embracing digital platforms. The Forbes cover story is out, Diana added. They're calling it The End of an Era: How a Mocked Entrepreneur Redefined Global Finance. The Grand Hall was packed with world leaders and financial innovators, all eager to learn from our success. Even James's old critics now praised our digital revolution. 2 years ago, I began, many claimed that banking was about personal relationships. That technology could never replace experience and tradition. The screens behind me showed the stark contrast: our platform's daily volume versus traditional banking's entire historical record. Today, Chen Global processes more transactions in a minute than all traditional banks combined handled in their best year. Sarah, now our Global Innovation Director, presented the next segment. Her father, James's former golf partner, sat proudly in the front row, his own firm now fully digital. The Thompson Group's success is unprecedented, she reported. Their return rates have increased 1,000% since abandoning traditional methods. James shifted uncomfortably at the mention of his former premier client. The prestigious firm now conducted all business through our automated systems. The Harvard Business Review called, Diana reported during a break. They're retiring the traditional banking curriculum completely. Students can't relate to outdated methods. Perfect. The practices James had once lectured about were now considered ancient history. The afternoon brought more validation. 3 major financial centers had mandated digital trading, effectively ending traditional banking worldwide. The Wall Street Journal wants an exclusive, Diana mentioned. They're documenting the last traditional trading desk's closure, sort of a financial eulogy. During the evening reception, James approached my table, looking lost among the tech discussions. "Emily, Ms. Chen," he started, his voice uncertain. "About my position. The board has created a new role for you," I informed him. "Historical. Banking consultant. You'll help document how things used to work." "You mean I'll be a museum piece?" "Everything evolves, James. Even banking." Later, Diana shared an observation that felt like perfect karma. "You know what's truly ironic? He spent so much time mocking your hobby that he became obsolete while trying to prove you wrong." The day ended with news that made everything complete. The last country club in the financial district was being converted into a coding academy. "Times change," I told James when he mentioned it. "Smart people change. With them." That evening, I found him in our company museum, staring at his old desk display. The placard read, "Traditional banking methods, obsolete." "Your little tech company," he said quietly. "It was never really about selling jewelry, was it?" "No, James. It was about seeing the future while men like you clung to the past. The only question was, who would adapt first?" My phone buzzed with updates about our newest platform's success. Another digital revolution, another industry transformed. "Remember, when you used to explain banking to me at parties?" I asked him. "When you told everyone to humor my cute hobby?" He nodded silently, his expertise now as outdated as his leather-bound ledgers. "Sometimes," I told Diana as we left, "success isn't about proving critics wrong. It's about building something so revolutionary that their mockery becomes a historical footnote." The city lights sparkled through our office windows, each one representing millions of digital transactions in the new financial world we'd created. Sometimes the best. Revenge isn't just succeeding. It's succeeding so completely that your critics become case studies in resistance to change. 2.5 years after taking control, I sat in the newly established Global Center for Financial Innovation, preparing to address the world's top business leaders. The center, built where James's favorite country club once stood, symbolized how completely we'd transformed the industry. "The final transformation metrics are incredible," Diana reported, reviewing our latest data. "Traditional banking methods are now officially classified as historical practices by every major financial institution worldwide." James sat in the back row, his new title of historical banking consultant feeling more ironic by the day. His role had become explaining to young executives how banking used to work before digital transformation. "The Financial Times retrospective is ready," Diana added, showing me the headline, "The Complete Revolution: How a Hobby Business Reshaped Global Finance and Ended Traditional Banking." The auditorium filled with business leaders, tech innovators, and financial experts. Each had come to understand how a supposedly simple online retailer had engineered the death of traditional banking. "The Thompson Group's new CEO is here," Diana mentioned. "She's doing a presentation on their 1,200% growth since abandoning traditional methods." Sarah Thompson, once the daughter of James's golf partner, now led the most successful digital trading operation in the country. Her father sat proudly in the front row, his own firm fully modernized. "Remember when James said she was too young to understand real banking?" Diana mused. "Now she's teaching Harvard's digital finance program." The morning sessions showcased our latest innovations. Each presentation further highlighted how completely we'd transformed the industry. "Your husband tried to schedule a traditional client meeting yesterday," Diana reported. "The system automatically redirected them to our digital platform. He didn't even know how to access it." I watched through the glass walls as James struggled with basic digital operations. His former assistant had written part of the code he couldn't comprehend. "The Wall Street Journal wants an exclusive," Diana continued. "They're documenting the last traditional trading desk's conversion to digital, sort of a final chapter in banking evolution." During the lunch break, James approached my table, looking more lost than ever among the tech discussions and digital displays. "Emily, Ms. Chen," he started, clutching outdated paperwork. "About these new systems." "They're not new anymore, James," I cut in. "They're the standard. Your old methods are what's foreign now." The afternoon brought more validation. The Global Banking Association had officially archived traditional banking practices as historical methodology. "The Harvard Business School ceremony is next week," Diana reminded me. "They're naming their new digital finance center after you. All traces of traditional banking have been removed from the curriculum." Perfect irony. The same institution where James had once lectured about real banking would now teach students how his methods became obsolete. "The museum exhibit is ready," Diana reported. "They've recreated your old office, James, complete with the desk where you used to mock Emily's." "Cute little hobby." I found him later, staring at his old mahogany desk behind museum glass. The placard read, "Traditional Banking, 2000-2024, a study in resistance to innovation." "Your tech company," he said quietly. "It was never really about selling jewelry online, was it?" "No, James. It was about seeing the future while men like you clung to the past. The only question was who would adapt first." The day ended with news that felt like perfect karma. The last remaining traditional banking association had dissolved, its members finally accepting the digital revolution. "Sometimes," I told Diana as we left, "success isn't just about proving critics wrong. It's about building something so revolutionary that their expertise becomes a museum exhibit." The city lights sparkled through our quantum glass windows, each one representing billions of digital transactions in the new financial world we'd created. James stayed late again, struggling to understand the systems that had made his lifetime of experience obsolete. His former golf partners now attended coding boot camps, desperately trying to remain relevant. "You know what's truly perfect?" Diana asked as we watched him through the glass walls. "He spent so much time mocking your hobby that he became a historical footnote in its success story." The quantum lights danced across the cityscape, each pulse representing another victory for innovation over tradition. Sometimes karma doesn't just come around. It evolves into something your critics can't even comprehend. 3 years after taking control, I prepared for my keynote speech at the Global Future of Finance Summit. The venue was symbolic. It had been built on the site of the last traditional banking institution in the city. "The statistics are remarkable," Diana reported, showing me the latest figures. "Not a single major financial transaction was processed through traditional methods last quarter. Even James's historical consulting role is becoming irrelevant." The Grand Hall buzzed with tech innovators and financial leaders. In the back row, James sat uncomfortably in his outdated suit, a living exhibit of banking's past. "The Time magazine retrospective just dropped," Diana added. "The death of traditional banking. How a mocked entrepreneur created the future of finance." James had been interviewed for the piece, though his quotes read more like historical footnotes than expert insight. His once authoritative voice now sounded hopelessly antiquated. "Sarah Thompson's presentation is ready," Diana continued. "Her digital trading algorithms have revolutionized even our modern standards." I watched the young CEO prepare her slides. The daughter of James's former golf partner had become the face of next-generation finance, while he struggled to understand basic digital operations. "Remember when he said she was too inexperienced for real banking?" Diana mused. "Now she's teaching advanced financial technology at Harvard." The morning sessions showcased innovations that made even our early digital platforms seem primitive. Each presentation pushed traditional banking further into obsolescence. "The Smithsonian called," Diana reported during a break. "They want James's old desk and leather ledgers for their Evolution of Commerce exhibit." Perfect. The tools he'd once used to mock my hobby were now literal museum pieces. "The Wall Street Journal feature is confirmed," she added. "From golf course to source code, the end of traditional banking." They want to interview James about being the last traditional banker. I found him staring at a digital display showing real-time global transactions. Millions of deals completed in seconds without a single handshake or dinner meeting. Emily, Ms. Chen, he started, his voice uncertain, about these quantum trading protocols. They're the standard now, James, I replied. Just like the digital systems you once called unnecessarily complex. The afternoon brought more validation. The International Banking Federation had officially reclassified traditional methods as pre-modern financial practices. Harvard Business Review wants to update their case study, Diana mentioned. Apparently, students can't comprehend how banking worked before digital transformation. James's expertise had become so outdated that he now served primarily as a historical reference point, explaining to young executives how banking used to work in the old days. The Thompson Group's latest results are in, Diana reported. Their AI trading division, led by Sarah, has exceeded all previous records. I watched James flinch at the news. His former premier client had become the poster child for digital innovation. Your husband tried to expense a client dinner last week, Diana added. The system automatically converted it to a virtual meeting. He didn't even know how to log in. The day ended with an announcement that felt like destiny. The last remaining golf course in the financial district would become a quantum computing campus. Times change, I told James when he mentioned it. Some people change with them. Others become historical examples of resistance to progress. Later, watching him struggle with basic digital protocols, Diana shared an observation. You know what's truly ironic? He spent years mocking your little tech company while it was quietly making his entire world obsolete. The evening concluded with a virtual reality tour of our next-generation trading platform. James stood awkwardly at the edges, unable to participate in the technology he couldn't understand. Sometimes, I told Diana as we left, success isn't just about proving critics wrong. It's about creating a future they can't even comprehend. The quantum lights pulsed across the cityscape, each flash representing countless digital transactions in the world we'd created. Sometimes karma doesn't just come around. It evolves beyond your critic's grasp. 4 years after taking control, I stood in the gleaming auditorium of the Chen Institute of Financial Innovation, preparing to announce our most revolutionary platform yet. The building itself was a symbol of transformation, constructed where James's favorite stock exchange once stood. The transition is finally complete, Diana reported, reviewing global statistics. Traditional banking methods are now officially classified as historical artifacts. Even James's consulting role has been automated. In the back row, James sat silently, his outdated expertise reduced to pre-recorded lectures for the museum's banking history exhibit. His former golf partners now attended our coding boot camps. The Economist's cover story is ready, Diana added. The end of traditional finance, how a hobby business became the global standard. The auditorium filled with tech leaders and financial innovators. Sarah Thompson, now heading our global AI division, prepared to showcase trading algorithms that made even our early digital platforms seem primitive. Remember when James said she didn't understand real banking? Diana mused. Now she's redesigning the entire financial system. The morning presentations demonstrated technologies that had made traditional banking as obsolete as paper ledgers. Each innovation pushed James's old methods further into history. The Library of Congress called, Diana reported. They want to archive James's old client files as examples of pre-digital financial practices. I watched through quantum glass as James struggled with basic system operations. His former assistant had written the code that now processed global trades. Your husband tried to attend a traditional banking seminar yesterday, Diana mentioned. It had been converted to a digital archaeology course. The afternoon brought more validation. The World Economic Forum had officially designated 2024 as the year traditional banking ended. The Wall Street Journal retrospective is confirmed, Diana added. From mocked to mandatory, how digital finance conquered the world. During the OPI lunch break, James approached my podium, looking lost among the holographic displays. Emily, Ms. Chen, he started, clutching outdated reports. About these quantum trading protocols. They're not just protocols anymore, James, I replied. They're the foundation of global finance. Your methods aren't even taught in business schools now. The day continued with announcements that made everything perfect. The last traditional trading floor would become a technology museum, with James's old office recreated as the centerpiece. Harvard Business School called, Diana reported. They want you to name the new quantum finance department. Suggested name, the future James couldn't see. I found him later, staring at his old desk behind museum glass. The placard read, Traditional Banking, a historical study in resistance to innovation. Your tech company, he said quietly. It was never about online retail, was it? No, James. It was about seeing the future while men like you mocked it. The only question was who would adapt first. The evening concluded with news that felt like destiny. The final country club in the financial district would become our new AI research center. The Financial Times wants an update, Diana mentioned. The complete revolution, how a hobby business erased traditional banking. James stayed late, struggling to understand systems that had made his lifetime of experience obsolete. His former clients now attended our digital transformation workshops. You know what's truly perfect? Diana asked as we watched him through quantum glass. He spent so much time mocking your hobby that he became part of its historical exhibit. The city pulsed with quantum light, each flash representing billions of digital transactions. Sometimes karma doesn't just come around, it renders your critics obsolete. Sometimes, I told Diana as we left, success isn't just about proving people wrong, it's about building something so revolutionary that their mockery becomes a historical lesson. The quantum network hummed beneath our feet, processing more transactions in a second than James had handled in his entire career. His real banking had become as outdated as stone tablets. Future generations would study this transformation, learning how a cute hobby had revolutionized global finance. And James? He'd be remembered only as the man who couldn't see the future his wife was building. The quantum network pulsed beneath my feet, a living testament to our revolution. What began as a hobby had now transformed global finance, rendering traditional banking as obsolete as telegraph machines. The final integration is underway, Diana reported, her holographic display casting blue light across the room where James's outdated equipment stood behind museum glass. His leather-bound ledgers and gold-plated pens were now artifacts, silent witnesses to an economic era long past. Sarah Thompson from our global AI division entered, her quantum tablet displaying complex economic models that would have seemed like science fiction a decade ago. The African Continental Free Trade Area is ready to implement our full quantum financial infrastructure, she announced. Complete digital transformation estimated in 18 months. I watched James through the ID quantum glass. Once a titan of traditional banking, he now moved like a ghost through the institution he'd once ruled. His attempts to understand our new trading algorithms were futile, like asking a carrier pigeon to comprehend satellite communication. Prepare the Global Quantum Finance Summit, I instructed Diana. We're not just changing an industry, we're rewriting the fundamental language of economic exchange. The summit would be our most ambitious project. Countries would either adopt our quantum financial protocols or risk economic irrelevance. The world had changed, and we were its architects. Your husband keeps requesting access to our quantum trading platforms, Diana mentioned, a hint of amusement in her voice. I remembered the early days, the countless board meetings where James and his contemporaries had laughed at my proposals. A cute hobby, they'd called it. Now, that hobby controlled more economic infrastructure than all traditional banks combined. Sarah's algorithms could predict economic trends with such precision that traditional economic theory looked like medieval astrology. We weren't just changing finance. We were writing the next chapter of human economic evolution. The World Economic Forum's declaration of 2024, as the year traditional banking ended, wasn't just a headline. It was a watershed moment in human economic history. And we were its primary authors. The Library of Congress wants more artifacts, Diana added. They're creating a comprehensive exhibit on the digital finance revolution. James's original trading floor plans will be displayed alongside primitive computational devices. I chuckled. Understanding was no longer an option for those who refused to adapt. Our quantum networks processed more economic data in milliseconds than entire banking systems had managed in decades. Diana, I said, my voice cutting through the ambient hum of quantum processors. Let's make history. The museum around us wasn't just a display of past technologies. It was a memorial to resistance, to the old guard who believed their methods were immutable. James's section served as a stark reminder of how quickly innovation could render entire systems obsolete. As we prepared for the Global Quantum Finance Summit, I knew this was more than a technological shift. This was a fundamental reconstruction of how human economic systems operate. The quantum network hummed with possibility. Each transaction a pulse of a new economic heartbeat. We weren't just changing an industry. We were rewriting the future, The Global Quantum Finance Summit arrived like a technological tsunami. Cities around the world dimmed their lights as our quantum networks absorbed unprecedented computational power. From the moment the first holographic presentation began, I knew we were rewriting history. Quantum financial protocols are no longer a choice, I declared, my voice resonating through a network that spanned continents. They're the fundamental infrastructure of global economic survival. Sarah stood beside me, her quantum tablet projecting real-time economic models that made traditional forecasting look like child's play. Each algorithmic pulse represented billions in potential economic transformation. Countries that had once mocked our approach now watched with a mixture of awe and terror. James sat in the back row, a relic observing his own obsolescence. His occasional attempts to interject were met with polite but firm dismissals. The financial world had moved beyond his comprehension, leaving him as a footnote in a rapidly evolving narrative. The African Continental Free Trade Area is fully digitized, Sarah reported during a break. Our predictive models show a 412% increase in cross-border economic efficiency. The number was staggering, a testament to the power of quantum financial engineering. Diana managed the back end, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces that would have seemed like science fiction a decade ago. Each movement synchronized global economic systems with a precision that made previous international trade look like a clumsy, inefficient game of chance. The museum section of our headquarters told a compelling story. James's old trading floor, now behind glass, looked like a primitive archaeological exhibit. Handwritten ledgers, manual calculators, physical stock certificates, all reduced to historical artifacts that explained how economic systems once functioned. By World Economic Forum is preparing a comprehensive documentary, Diana whispered. The Chen Revolution, How a Hobby Rewrote Global Finance. The irony wasn't lost on me. What was once dismissed as a cute startup idea now controlled more economic infrastructure than entire nations. During the lunch break, I watched James struggle with our new quantum tablets. His fingers, once masterful at navigating traditional banking systems, now trembled over interfaces that seamlessly connected global markets in milliseconds. Emily? He approached hesitantly. I don't understand how. Progress doesn't require understanding, James, I interrupted. It requires adaptation. The afternoon sessions dove deeper into our revolutionary protocols. Quantum trading algorithms that could predict market movements with 99.98% accuracy. Economic models that transformed entire continental trade systems. Financial infrastructure that made national boundaries increasingly irrelevant. Sarah's presentation on our AI-driven economic prediction models brought the summit to a standing ovation. Traditional economists looked like antiquated scholars watching the birth of a new scientific paradigm. As the summit concluded, I knew we had done more than introduce new technology. We had fundamentally reimagined the concept of economic exchange. The quantum network beneath our feet wasn't just a technological marvel. It was a living, breathing system of global economic transformation. Prepare for the next phase, I told Diana as we watched the global delegates disperse. We're not just changing finance. We're redesigning human economic potential. The world had changed, and we were its architects. The aftermath of the Global Quantum Finance Summit rippled through global economic systems like a precision-engineered tsunami. Within weeks, our quantum protocols had transformed financial infrastructures that had seemed immovable for generations. The last traditional trading floor is being converted, Diana reported, her voice a mixture of professional detachment and subtle triumph. Harvard Business School wants to create a comprehensive archive of our technological revolution. I watched James navigate this new landscape, a landscape he no longer understood. His once powerful network of golf course negotiations and insider connections had been rendered obsolete by algorithms that processed more information in milliseconds than he had in his entire career. The museum section of our headquarters continued to expand. What was once a small exhibit of outdated financial technologies now consumed entire floors. James's original trading desk stood behind quantum glass, surrounded by interactive displays showing how economic systems had evolved. The Library of Congress called, Diana mentioned during our morning strategy meeting. They want to create a comprehensive digital archive documenting the complete transformation of global finance. They're particularly interested in the early stages, how a hobby business became the global standard. Sarah Thompson entered, her quantum tablet projecting holographic economic models that danced with mathematical precision. The final resistance points are crumbling, she announced. Our predictive algorithms have identified and neutralized potential economic bottlenecks in 97% of global markets. The phrase economic bottlenecks was itself a revolutionary concept. We weren't just changing how money moved. We were redesigning the very infrastructure of economic exchange. James attempted to attend one of our coding boot camps, a desperate attempt to understand the systems that had made his lifetime of expertise irrelevant. I watched him through the quantum glass, struggling with basic quantum interface operations that our junior analysts could navigate effortlessly. Your husband keeps requesting meetings, Diana said, a hint of amusement in her voice. He wants to understand how we did it. I remembered the early days, the late-night strategy sessions, the constant ridicule from traditional financial experts who saw our approach as nothing more than a novelty. Now, those same experts were footnotes. In a revolutionary narrative, the World Economic Forum had begun preparing a comprehensive documentary. The Chen Revolution, From Hobby to Global Infrastructure, would detail how we had fundamentally reimagined economic potential. During a break, I found James staring at his old trading floor, now a carefully preserved historical exhibit. The placard read, Traditional Banking, a Study in Technological Resistance. Each display case told a story of obsolescence, manual calculators, physical stock certificates, handwritten ledgers. How did you see what nobody else could? He asked, his voice a mixture of defeat and genuine curiosity. Innovation isn't about understanding the present, I replied. It's about imagining a future others can't see. Our quantum network continued to pulse beneath our feet, a living, breathing system of global economic exchange. Each transaction represented more than money. It represented a fundamental redesign of how human economic systems could operate. "Prepare for the next phase," I told Diana as we left the museum section. "We're not just changing an industry. We're writing the next chapter of human economic potential." The quantum light flickered, a silent testament to a revolution that had transformed everything. The next phase of our revolution wasn't just about technology. It was about reimagining the very concept of economic potential. Our quantum networks had transformed from a disruptive technology to the fundamental infrastructure of global finance. "The final global integration is complete," Diana reported during our morning strategy meeting. Her holographic display showed real-time economic data flowing across continents like electrical impulses. "We've achieved 99.7% market penetration." Those numbers meant more than statistics. They represented a complete reconstruction of how human economic systems operated. Countries that had once resisted our quantum protocols now depended on them for survival. James had become a living museum piece. I'd catch him wandering through our headquarters, staring at quantum interfaces he could never comprehend. His attempts to understand our systems were like watching someone try to decode an alien language. Sarah Thompson's team had developed a new predictive model that could anticipate economic trends with such precision that traditional forecasting looked like primitive divination. "We're not just predicting markets," she explained during a global conference. "We're engineering economic futures with mathematical precision." The World Economic Forum was preparing a comprehensive documentary. "The Chen Revolution: How a Hobby Became Global Infrastructure" would detail our journey from a dismissed startup to the architects of a new economic paradigm. "The last traditional bank converted its final analog system yesterday," Diana mentioned casually. The statement carried the weight of a historical epoch. We hadn't just changed an industry, we'd rendered entire economic models obsolete. I remembered the early days, the late-night strategy sessions, the constant ridicule from financial experts who saw our approach as nothing more than a technological novelty. Now those same experts were historical footnotes. The museum section of our headquarters continued to expand. James's original trading floor stood behind Quantum Glass, a carefully preserved exhibit of economic prehistoric times. Handwritten ledgers, manual calculators, physical stock certificates, all reduced to artifacts that explained how economic systems once functioned. "Harvard Business School wants to create a comprehensive archive," Diana reported. "They're particularly interested in the transition period, how we transformed from a cute hobby to the global standard of financial infrastructure." During a break, I found James staring at the museum displays. His fingers, once masterful at navigating traditional banking systems, now trembled near quantum interfaces that connected global markets in milliseconds. "How did you see what nobody else could?" he asked, a mixture of defeat and genuine curiosity in his voice. "Innovation isn't about understanding the present," I replied. "It's about imagining a future others can't see." The quantum network beneath our feet pulsed with possibility. Each transaction represented more than money. It was a fundamental redesign of human economic potential. We had done more than create a new technology. We had reimagined the very language of economic exchange. Sarah's latest presentation at the Global Economic Summit left traditional economists speechless. Predictive models that could anticipate market movements with 99.98% accuracy. Economics, algorithms that transformed continental trade systems. Financial infrastructure that made national boundaries increasingly irrelevant. "Prepare for the next phase," I told Diana as we watched the global economic landscape continue to transform. "We're not just changing an industry, we're redesigning human economic potential." The quantum light flickered, a silent testament to a revolution that had transformed everything. The next evolution of our quantum financial network wasn't just a technological upgrade. It was a complete reimagining of economic potential. Our systems had become more than infrastructure. They were the nervous system of global economic exchange. The quantum neural network is showing unprecedented adaptive capabilities, Sarah reported, her holographic display dancing with complex algorithmic patterns that would have seemed like pure magic a decade ago. We're no longer just predicting markets. We're creating economic ecosystems. Diana's morning briefing read like a manifesto of technological triumph. Countries that had once resisted our quantum protocols now competed to be the most deeply integrated into our system. James's entire generation of financial experts had become obsolete, replaced by AI-driven economic architects who spoke in algorithms and thought in quantum possibilities. I watched him through the quantum glass. Once a master of traditional banking, now reduced to a museum piece, a living artifact of an economic era that had become as distant as steam-powered machinery. His occasional attempts to understand our systems were like watching someone try to comprehend quantum mechanics using an abacus. The museum section of our headquarters had become a global tourist attraction. School groups, economic researchers, and technology enthusiasts would walk through exhibits that showed the complete transformation of financial systems. James's original trading desk stood behind carefully designed quantum glass, a monument to technological resistance. The Library of Congress wants to expand their digital archive, Diana mentioned during our strategy meeting. They're particularly interested in documenting how a hobby business became the global standard of economic infrastructure. Sarah's team had developed a new predictive model that made previous economic forecasting look like primitive fortune-telling. We're engineering economic futures, she explained during a global conference, not just predicting them, but actively constructing economic potential with mathematical precision. The World Economic Forum was preparing a comprehensive documentary. The Chen Revolution, from disruption to global transformation, would detail our journey from a dismissed startup to the architects of a new economic paradigm. The final traditional financial institution completed its quantum conversion yesterday, Diana reported casually. The statement carried the weight of a historical epoch. We hadn't just changed an industry, we'd rewritten the fundamental language of economic exchange. I remembered the early days, the late-night strategy sessions, the constant ridicule from financial experts who saw our approach as nothing more than a technological novelty. Now, those same experts were historical footnotes, their expertise as relevant as horse-drawn carriage manufacturers in the age of electric vehicles. During a break, I found James wandering through the museum section, his fingers, once masterful, at navigating traditional banking systems, now hovered uncertainly near quantum interfaces that connected global markets in milliseconds. "How did you see what nobody else could?" he asked, a mixture of defeat and genuine curiosity in his voice. "Innovation isn't about understanding the present," I replied. "It's about imagining a future others can't even conceive." The quantum network beneath our feet pulsed with possibility. Each transaction represented more than money. It was a fundamental redesign of human economic potential. We had done more than create a new technology. We had reimagined the very infrastructure of global exchange. Prepare for the next phase, I told Diana as we watched the global economic landscape continue to transform. We're not just changing an industry. We're designing the future of human economic potential. The quantum light flickered, a silent testament to a revolution that had transformed everything, The final stage of our quantum financial revolution wasn't just about technology. It was about rewriting the fundamental architecture of global economic potential. Our systems had transcended infrastructure. They had become the neural network of human economic interaction. The adaptive quantum algorithms are showing unprecedented evolutionary capabilities, Sarah reported during our morning strategy meeting. Her holographic display projected complex computational models that danced with mathematical poetry. We're no longer just predicting economic trends. We're actively designing economic ecosystems. Diana's briefing read like a chronicle of technological metamorphosis. Nations that had once viewed our quantum protocols with suspicion now competed, desperately to be more deeply integrated into our system. James's entire generation of financial experts had become relics, museum pieces replaced by AI-driven economic architects who spoke in algorithmic languages and thought in quantum possibilities. I watched him through the quantum glass. Once a titan of traditional banking, now reduced to a historical exhibit. A living artifact of an economic era as distant and incomprehensible as telegraph operators in the age of satellite communication. His sporadic attempts to understand our systems were like watching someone try to decode advanced quantum mechanics using a slide rule. The museum section of our headquarters had become a global pilgrimage site. Economic researchers, technology, enthusiasts, and student groups would walk reverently through exhibits that chronicled the complete transformation of financial systems. James's original trading desk stood behind carefully designed quantum glass, a monument to technological resistance and institutional inertia. The Smithsonian wants to create a comprehensive exhibit, Diana mentioned, her voice a blend of professional detachment and subtle triumph. They're calling it the Chen Transformation, How a Hobby Rewrote Global Economic Infrastructure. Sarah's latest predictive models made previous economic forecasting look like medieval divination. We're not just predicting economic futures, she explained during a global conference. We're actively engineering economic potential with mathematical precision that transforms potential into reality. The World Economic Forum was preparing a definitive documentary. The Chen Revolution, From Marginal Idea to Global Economic Redesign, would detail our journey from a dismissed startup to the primary architects of a new economic paradigm. The last analog financial system was fully digitized yesterday, Diana reported. The statement carried the weight of a historical turning point. We hadn't just changed an industry. We'd rewritten the fundamental language of global economic exchange. I reflected on the early days, those late-night strategy sessions, the constant ridicule from financial experts who dismissed our approach as a technological fantasy. Now, those same experts were nothing more than footnotes in a revolutionary narrative, their expertise as relevant as whale oil merchants in the age of electric lighting. During a quiet moment, I found James wandering through the museum section. His fingers, once masterful at navigating traditional banking systems, now hovered uncertainly near quantum interfaces that connected global markets in microscopic fractions of a second. "How did you see what nobody else could?" he asked, a complex mixture of defeat, curiosity, and grudging respect in his voice. "Innovation isn't about understanding the present," I replied. "It's about imagining a future so radical that others can't even conceive its possibility." The quantum network hummed beneath our feet, a living, breathing system of global economic potential. Each transaction represented more than a financial exchange. It was a fundamental redesign of human economic interaction. We had done more than create a new technology. We had reimagined the very infrastructure of global exchange. "Prepare for the next phase," I told Diana, as we watched the global economic landscape continue its relentless transformation. "We're not just changing an industry, we're designing the future of human economic potential." The quantum light flickered, a silent testament to a revolution that had transformed everything. The quantum revolution had become more than a technological breakthrough. It was a complete reimagining of human economic potential. Our systems were no longer just infrastructure. They were the living, breathing neural network of global economic interaction. "The latest adaptive algorithms have exceeded all predictive models," Sarah reported, her holographic display projecting computational landscapes that would have seemed like pure magic a decade ago. "We're not just analyzing economic trends. We're actively constructing economic ecosystems in real time." Diana's morning briefing was a testament to our complete transformation. Countries that had once resisted our quantum protocols now fought to be more deeply integrated into our system. James's entire generation of financial experts had become historical artifacts, replaced by AI-driven economic architects who spoke in algorithmic languages and thought in quantum possibilities. I watched him through the quantum glass. Once a master of traditional banking, now reduced to a living museum piece, an artifact of an economic era as distant and incomprehensible as telegram operators in the age of instantaneous global communication. His occasional attempts to understand our systems were like watching someone try to decode advanced quantum mechanics using an abacus. The museum section of our headquarters had become a global destination. Economic researchers, technology historians, and student groups would walk through exhibits that documented the complete transformation of financial systems. James's original trading desk stood behind carefully designed quantum glass, a monument to technological resistance and institutional inertia. The United Nations Economic Commission wants to create a comprehensive global archive, Diana mentioned during our strategy meeting. They're documenting how a hobby business became the primary infrastructure of global economic exchange. Sarah's team had developed predictive models that made previous economic forecasting look like primitive fortune-telling. We're engineering economic futures, she explained during a global conference. Not just predicting them, but actively constructing economic potential with mathematical precision that transforms theoretical possibilities into tangible realities. The World Economic Forum was preparing a definitive documentary. The Chen Transformation, from marginal idea to global economic redesign, would chronicle our journey from a dismissed startup to the primary architects of a new economic paradigm. The final traditional financial institution completed its quantum AI conversion yesterday, Diana reported. The statement carried the weight of a historical epoch. We hadn't just changed an industry, we'd rewritten the fundamental language of global economic interaction. I remembered the early days, those late-night strategy sessions, the constant ridicule from financial experts who saw our approach as a technological fantasy. Now, those same experts were nothing more than footnotes in a revolutionary narrative, their expertise as relevant as horse-drawn carriage manufacturers in the age of electric vehicles. During a quiet moment, I found James wandering through the museum section. His fingers, once masterful at navigating traditional banking systems, now hovered uncertainly near quantum interfaces that connected global markets in microscopic fractions of a second. "How did you see what nobody else could?" he asked, a complex mixture of defeat, curiosity, and grudging respect in his voice. "Innovation isn't about understanding the present," I replied. "It's about imagining a future so radical that others can't even comprehend its possibility." The quantum network hummed beneath our feet, a living, breathing system of global economic potential. Each transaction represented more than a financial exchange. It was a fundamental redesign of human economic interaction. We had done more than create a new technology. We had reimagined the very infrastructure of global exchange. "Prepare for the next phase," I told Diana as we watched the global economic landscape continue its relentless transformation. "We're not just changing an industry, we're designing the future of human economic potential." The quantum light flickered, a silent testament to a revolution that had transformed everything. Everything. The quantum revolution had transcended technological innovation. We had become the architects of a completely new economic reality. Our systems were more than infrastructure. They were the living, breathing consciousness of global economic interaction. The latest quantum neural networks have developed autonomous predictive capabilities, Sarah reported during our morning strategy meeting. Her holographic display projected computational landscapes that would have seemed like pure science fiction just years ago. We're no longer just analyzing economic trends. We're creating adaptive economic ecosystems that evolve in real time. Diana's briefing read like a chronicle of total transformation. Nations that had once viewed our quantum protocols with skepticism now competed desperately to be more deeply integrated into our system. James's entire generation of financial experts had become historical relics, replaced by AI-driven economic architects who spoke in algorithmic languages and conceptualized economic potential in quantum dimensions. I watched him through the quantum glass, once a titan of traditional banking, now reduced to a living museum exhibit, an artifact of an economic era as distant and incomprehensible as steam engine operators in the age of quantum computing. His sporadic attempts to understand our systems were like watching someone try to explain quantum entanglement using medieval alchemical diagrams. The museum section of our headquarters had become a global pilgrimage site. Economic researchers, technology historians, and international delegations would walk through exhibits that chronicled the complete metamorphosis of financial systems. James's original trading desk stood behind carefully designed quantum glass, a monument to technological resistance and institutional inertia. The International Monetary Fund wants to create a comprehensive global archive, Diana mentioned casually. They're documenting how a hobby business became the primary neural network of global economic exchange. Sarah's latest predictive models made previous economic forecasting look like primitive divination. We're not just predicting economic futures, she explained during a global conference. We're actively engineering economic potential with mathematical precision that transforms theoretical possibilities into tangible, dynamic realities. The World Economic Forum was preparing a definitive documentary. The Chen Transformation, from marginal concept to global economic redesign, would detail our journey from a dismissed startup to the primary architects of a new economic paradigm. The last vestiges of analog financial systems were fully digitized yesterday, Diana reported. The statement carried the weight of a historical turning point. We hadn't just changed an industry, we'd rewritten the fundamental language of global economic interaction. I reflected on the early days. Those late-night strategy sessions, the constant ridicule from financial experts who dismissed our approach as a technological fantasy. Now, those same experts were nothing more than footnotes in a revolutionary narrative. Their expertise as relevant as telegram operators in the age of instantaneous global communication. During a quiet moment, I found James wandering through the museum section. His fingers, once masterful at navigating traditional banking systems, now hovered uncertainly near quantum interfaces that connected global markets in microscopic fractions of a second. "How did you see what nobody else could?" he asked, a complex mixture of defeat, curiosity, and grudging respect in his voice. "Innovation isn't about understanding the present," I replied. "It's about imagining a future so radical that others can't even conceive its possibility." The quantum network hummed beneath our feet, a living, breathing system of global economic potential. Each transaction represented more than a financial exchange. It was a fundamental redesign of human economic interaction. We had done more than create a new technology. We had reimagined the very infrastructure of global exchange. "Prepare for the next phase," I told Diana as we watched the global economic landscape continue its relentless transformation. "We're not just changing an industry, we're designing the future of human economic potential." The quantum light flickered, a silent testament to a revolution that had transformed everything. The quantum revolution had become more than a technological breakthrough. It was a complete reconstruction of economic reality. Our systems were no longer just infrastructure. They were the living, breathing neural network of global economic consciousness. The autonomous quantum algorithms have achieved unprecedented levels of predictive sophistication, Sarah reported, her holographic display revealing computational landscapes that would have seemed like pure magic a decade ago. "We're not merely analyzing economic trends. We're creating self-evolving economic ecosystems that adapt in real time to global dynamics." Diana's morning briefing was a testament to our total transformation. Countries that had once resisted our quantum protocols now fought to be more deeply integrated into our system. James's entire generation of financial experts had become historical artifacts, replaced by AI-driven economic architects who spoke in algorithmic languages and conceptualized economic potential in quantum dimensions. I watched him through the quantum glass. Once a master of traditional banking, now reduced to a living museum piece, an artifact of an economic era as distant and incomprehensible as Morse code operators in the age of instantaneous global communication. His occasional attempts to understand our systems were like watching someone try to decode advanced quantum mechanics using a slide rule. The museum section of our headquarters had become a global destination. Economic researchers, technology historians, and international delegations would walk through exhibits that documented the complete transformation of financial systems. James's original trading desk stood behind carefully designed quantum glass, a monument to technological resistance and institutional inertia. The European Central Bank wants to create a comprehensive global archive, Diana mentioned during our strategy meeting. They're documenting how a hobby business became the primary neural network of global economic exchange. Sarah's team had developed predictive models that made previous economic forecasting look like primitive fortune-telling. We're engineering economic futures, she explained during a global conference. Not just predicting them, but actively constructing economic potential with mathematical precision that transforms theoretical possibilities into tangible, dynamic realities. The World Economic Forum was preparing a definitive documentary. The Chen Transformation, from marginal idea to global economic redesign, would chronicle our journey from a dismissed startup to the primary architects of a new economic paradigm. The final traditional financial institution completed its quantum conversion yesterday, Diana reported. The statement carried the weight of a historical epoch. We hadn't just changed an industry, we'd rewritten the fundamental language of global economic interaction. I remembered the early days, those late-night strategy sessions, the constant ridicule from financial experts who saw our approach as a technological fantasy. Now, those same experts were nothing more than footnotes in a revolutionary narrative. Their expertise as relevant as whale oil merchants in the age of electric lighting. During a quiet moment, I found James wandering through the museum section. His fingers, once masterful at navigating traditional banking systems, now hovered uncertainly near quantum interfaces that connected global markets in microscopic fractions of a second. "How did you see what nobody else could?" he asked, a complex mixture of defeat, curiosity, and grudging respect in his voice. "Innovation isn't about understanding the present," I replied. "It's about imagining a future so radical that others can't even comprehend its possibility." The quantum network hummed beneath our feet, a living, breathing system of global economic potential. Each transaction represented more than a financial exchange. It was a fundamental redesign of human economic interaction. We had done more than create a new technology. We had reimagined the very infrastructure of global exchange. "Prepare for the next phase," I told Diana as we watched the global economic landscape continue its relentless transformation. "We're not just changing an industry. We're designing the future of human economic potential." The quantum light flickered, a silent testament to a revolution that had transformed everything.